Only one thing I'll tell you now, the sound is just a little bit down. That's because we don't have a directional mic. But other than that, I think that was a good day that we were out there. All right. Okay. Still, any points that anyone wants to hit me with before we go? Before we go into lesson? Yes, ma'am? Yes, ma'am, on the regular new channel. I will find it out and I'll send it to you, ma'am. All right, and I'll send it to you all generally. All right. Now, did you see that email I sent you the other day? This one I've got to throw at you, however. Did you get that email I sent you with that Moabite who was cutting the bushes and she saw the bird's nest in there? And the newly hatched chickens, and she just took them out and ate them?
Oh, no.
I sent it to you. Be careful, you'll be sick. I sent it. I think I meant I sent it last night. I might have sent it last night because I'm up in the wee hours of the night, reading. I'm a bit of a night owl. But if you see that, it will make you feel sick.
I see what you're talking about now when you're talking about just Indian. They just as bad. Yeah.
These people, this is why this lesson is going to be good. All right. The title of this lesson, ladies and gentlemen, is called the main title is Angels in Dungeons. Angels in Dungeons. And then as a subtitle, Angels in Chains and Darkness. Angels in Chains of Darkness. Angels in Chains of Darkness. Angels and Dungeons. And main title, subtitle, Angels in Chains of Darkness. Let us go, if you please, to the first area of study. We're going to go to the book of Jude. Jude chapter 1. This is going to be a heavy teaching. It's going to be heavy. I apologize ahead of time. It's going to be a heavy teaching. It's not going to be technically heavy. Not technically, but it's going to be heavy because of the subject matter. It's going to require you to think a little bit. But it will be very informative. Did I see Dustris just walk by? All right, I need Dustris. All right, let's go. I want that door over here just cracked just a little bit to have some through air. It's a bit tight in here, right? Just a little bit. Just stick it until we get our air conditioning sorted out. I don't want to open wide. I just want to open just a little bit. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Right? Okay, now, Jude chapter 1. Let's begin read at verse 6.
Come. It's the book of Jude, chapter 1 and verse 6.
Read.
And the angels which kept not their first estate.
Now, in Christianity, you have been taught the scripture to believe it is speaking about literal angelic beings based upon the Christian ideology that's been given to us from Roman Catholicism. Roman Catholicism makes it one of these things that it's all about, the Nordic gods.
That's right.
Devils and demons and angels and hell and heaven and the land and the god called Odin and all of that. It's based upon Nordic and Celtic and Greek-ish mythology.
That's right.
Here, when it speaks about the angels, it is speaking about something else. And I won't reveal that right now because you'll find out in just a moment. Read that whole verse over again from the top.
Jude chapter 1 verse 6. And the angels which kept not their first estate,
read,
but left their own habitation He hath reserved in everlasting chains.
Everlasting what?
Everlasting chains.
So it's speaking about the chains that they are held by, go on,
Under darkness.
under darkness. Now, let's finish that.
Unto the judgment of the great day.
Unto the judgment of the great day.
Huh.
Now to take it a step further, let's go to 2 Peter chapter 2 and verse 5. 2 Peter chapter 2. 2 Peter chapter 2 and verse 5.
2 Peter chapter 2 and verse 5.
Read.
And spared not the old world, but saved Noah and the eighth person, a teacher of righteousness, bringing in the flood upon the world of the ungodly.
Now, what you must assess from these two verses, and truthfully, you cannot study Jude without studying 2 Peter's. You cannot study 2 Peter's without studying Jude, because they are interlinked. Why? They are tied to the antiquity of our history. It is tied to the antiquity of our history, the ancient days of our history, going back to the beginning. Because you can see here in verse 5 of 2 Peter, it says this clearly. And did what?
And spared not the old world, but saved Noah, the eighth person.
Stop. So it's telling you clear that he spared not the old world. The old world was the world that was first destroyed by water. That is called the first death. So when you read throughout the scriptures, it uses this term, the first death. The first death is the flood that took place all over the earth. Please do not buy into some of Esau's rhetoric about this was a localized flood. That's garbage. Because when you read the account of the flood, it said that even the mountaintops were covered.
That's right.
So if the mountaintops was covered, it's letting you know clearly here that the whole earth was in or underwater. The question normally that you'll find some smart aleck always asks, then what about the birds? Well, listen, first of all, birds, in terms of their feathers, it has an oil substance. So they don't get waterlogged. Birds can swim on the water surface. So when they get tired of flying, they come down to the water surface, and some birds, believe it or not, can swim underwater. So don't let your limited understanding block your understanding from what the scripture says, trying to reveal to you. Come on? So here we see that it is letting us know that spared not the old world, but saved Noah, the eighth person. Why is that so important? Because 8, by biblical numerology, means new beginnings. And that new beginnings is important, because why then did the Most High destroy all the people that was in existence before and only kept 8? Those 8 came from the Adamic line of Adam. Their lineage came from that line. No one else. Because there were other people there. We'll prove that as we go through the scriptures. And some of you have sat in this class before and had these lessons. So this is what you have to be aware of, what the scriptures is trying to convey to us.
That's right.
Come on. So now, in understanding that, we've got to go back to the Genesis. Thank you, my dear. Let's go to Genesis chapter 5 and 1. Now, why is that so important? Because again, I just mentioned the word. I mentioned the word lineage. So we have to go back and examine that. because nothing in the scriptures is there by happenstance or by a mistake. So let's read Genesis chapter 5 and verse 1. Let's read.
Genesis chapter 5 and verse 1.
Read.
This is the book of the generations of Adam.
This is the book of the generations of Adam. The generations of Adam, which means genealogy. When we have genealogy, we have lineage. Lineage. Bloodline. Gone? So, in having that understanding, it's also centering itself on a specific personality. That personality is Adam.
That's right.
Then when we read on, it says what?
In the day that God created man in the likeness of God, made he him.
So that clears all the other mess. That he made man in his likeness. So what did he look like then for him to make us like him? Oh, okay. So he had appendages called arms. He had legs. He had a body, what we call a torso. He has a head. And if he has a head, therefore he has eyes, nose, mouth, and ears. So now we begin to see that we weren't just some putty or plasticine or Play-Doh that he just rolled together and made some object. He made us in his image. And the scripture always also gives us the idea of likeness, to be like something. Like something doesn't mean exactly like. It means you bear all of the outward appearance of a thing. So in understanding that, it tells us that we're made in his likeness. Now, Genesis chapter 1, let's stay there. Let's go to verse, let me see, and Adam lived on, oh no. Let's go to verse 27.
Genesis chapter 5, verse 27. In all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died.
Salaki, drop that. I meant to go to Genesis chapter 1 and 27. 1 and 27.
Salaki, Genesis chapter 1 and verse 27.
Let's read.
So God created man in his own image.
There is it. That's what I wanted. He created man in his own image. Not in somebody else's, but in his own image. Read.
Salaki, in the image of God created he him.
So it's driving the point home, because again, we have these people who are trying to, but God is a spirit. He doesn't have a body, and if he doesn't, if it's a spirit doesn't have a body, then we can't be like him. Listen here, dummy. The reason why it says that is because it's trying to let you understand why we are called sons of God. We just read lineage. We just read generation. If you're a son of someone, you look like that someone.
That's right.
Notice the words I said. Look like. So there's a likeness. And where there's a likeness, there's also an image relation. But here in Genesis chapter 1 and 27, it said, so God created man in his own image. That word emphasis there, own image. And then it said, in the image of God created he him. Now, who did he make? Read.
Male and female.
So both were made in his image. Does that make sense to you so far?
Yes, sir.
Right. Still staying there, jump to verse 24. Same chapter, verse 24.
Genesis chapter 1, verse 24. And God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind.
Stop. Notice what it uses there. It says, and God said, let the earth, which means the entire world, as we can remember, today we use the word world interchangeably with earth. But here it says, let the earth bring forth living creatures after his kind. Living creatures after his kind. That word is very important because after that, comma, there's a continuation.
Right.
And then it begins to break down the other kinds. So first of all, living creatures of his kind, meaning the kind that has the image of the Most High. Then the other kind, which it says, cattle kind, then creeping kind, then beast kind, and then we'll go ahead and read it.
Cattle and creeping things and beast of the earth after his kind. And it was so.
So when you read that, he has already pre-stated it by letting you know that mankind came forth of his kind. Make sense? Jump back to verse 21.
Verse 21. And God created great whales and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind.
After their kind. So the waters bring forth their kind. Read on.
And every winged fowl after his kind.
And those birds that fly after their kind. So it's letting you know that there was an abundance.
That's right.
There's an abundance of fish of their kind. There's abundance of birds of their kind. Then we read, when we jump back now to what we were reading just previously, which is verse what? 24? Go ahead and read it.
And verse 24. And God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind.
Because we, mankind, we are creatures according to the Scriptures. Scriptures tells us that we're creatures. And so in that, it lets you know clearly there that we didn't come forth as in a one-woman, one-man situation. There was an abundance of us that came forth. Is that clear to everyone so far?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that you've got it. So the different kinds are mankind, animal kind, fish kind, bird kind, insect kind, cattle kind. See that?
Right.
All the different kinds. And they all came out how? A lot of them all at once. So all of man came forth all at once.
That's right.
Contrary to what the Catholics teach us, and they show you this one white woman with blonde hair with this little leaf covering up her private part, and this one white man with blue eyes and blonde hair doing likewise. You see, this is Catholicism. Genesis chapter 5 and verse 2. Now I'll take questions as we go along, so I want to make sure everybody gets this, and I will be shocking some of you by asking you some questions. But go ahead.
Genesis chapter 5 and verse 2.
Read.
Male and female.
So we go back to that now. What were the kinds that he made? Male and female. Read.
Created he them.
Created he them. Now watch it. Read.
And blessed them.
And blessed them. Now he's speaking about a specific group of people that came forth from the kinds, from the many. Are you with me so far?
Yeah.
So out of the many, he pulled a particular group. Continue, sir.
And blessed them.
And he did what?
And blessed them.
And he blessed them. Now what I want you to see is that those that were of a particular kind, he blessed them from the beginning. Meaning, Cleo, he didn't bless all of the other mankind that was out there. Didn't bless them all. He called a particular group and he blessed that kind. That's why that blessing has been with us from the beginning. And if the blessing's been with us from the beginning, that's why those who come on later hate us, because they're always in a blessing situation.
That's right.
These rascals were blessed from the beginning, and we weren't blessed. And then in every age now, they come forth now. There they are again. Go ahead, sir.
That's how they got lined up, because they kept passing it down through the other nations, and that's why they got together to take
Can't. Because they've always had that feeling in them that they weren't blessed. Now you're going to see as we go on why we were blessed different and they only have access to all that they see. Ours is connected to both a heavenly and earthly blessing. In fact, from the beginning, we had dual citizenship from the beginning. Dual. Meaning we were of heaven and of earth. So that means that anything that's out there in the galaxies, because of our heavenly status, that's ours too. And these people recognize that he gave them all of that. Now, at the beginning,
That's right.
Who are they? Watch this now. That's right. Did you go ahead?
So when we look at it, Esau was never there at the beginning. He came after. So because they would say,
Yes, Esau was there from the beginning. His spirit was there from the beginning. Remember, all the spirits existed at one time. What the Most High did, he released some spirits, and he keeps on releasing them. They go through their cycle, they come back, they get released, they come back, they get released. But keep going. That's why the scripture speaks about the waters, how the waters keep recycling itself. And because you read that in Ecclesiastes chapter 1. If I just run there just for a quick minute. Because this will prove generations as well.
So when you say in 27 that God has made man in his own image, he was referring to Esau too?
No.
That's my point of view.
Okay. Because remember what in fact, I'll answer that in another way. But let's read Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and 1. Read.
Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and verse 1. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, saith the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. What profit hath a man of all his labor which he taketh under the sun?
In other words, on the earth, go on.
One generation.
Here it comes.
Passeth away.
Read it again.
One generation passeth away.
Read.
And another generation cometh. But the earth abideth forever.
So right there between Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and verse 1 all the way down to verse 9 lets you know that things keep recycling. Things keep going around and around and around. When you jump down to verse 7, watch what verse 7 says. It says,
verse 7, all the rivers run into the sea.
Read.
Yet the sea is not full.
Why is the sea not filled? Because it's letting the waters go back round again on the other side. Go on.
Unto the place from whence the rivers come. Thither they return again.
See? So everything is on a cycle. The Most High made everything on a cycle. The universe is on a cycle. That's why everything is in a loop. Everything has a circle. Everything has an orbiting movement around it. That's how He's made everything. Our lives is the same. Where we go, we come, we go, we go, we come. We keep going round. But let's get back to where we was in Genesis chapter 5. Now let's read it again, verse 2.
Genesis chapter 5, verse 2. Male and female created He them.
Read.
And blessed them, and called their name Adam.
And call their name what?
Adam.
Read.
In the day when they were created.
So they were created, meaning there was a group of people that were called Adam. They are known today from the scholarship as Adamites. Adamites. These are the generation of Adam, not the other nations. Because there were other nations there too. There were the sons of men. Sons of the wicked existed then too.
That's right.
Because all the spirits were there. So here it tells us, and to make a point, hold that quickly. Go to 2nd Ezra, chapter 6 and verse 54.
2nd Ezra, chapter 6 and verse 54.
Read.
And after these, Adam also, whom thou madest Lord of all thy creatures, of him come we all.
Come we all. That confirms what you're reading here in Genesis chapter 5 and verse 2.
Come.
Read it again, Marshall, there.
2nd Ezra, chapter 6, verse 54. And after these, Adam also, whom thou madest Lord of all thy creatures, of him come we all. And
all right, you can stop there.
Come.
All right, so that clarifies it. It makes a definitive statement. Did I see a hand? Go ahead. Say again. We all, right, we all are, let's go back to Genesis chapter 5 and read verse 2. This is the we all.
Genesis chapter 5, verse 2. Male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam.
That's the we all. We come from that line. All, we all. Because when you're reading that in 2nd Ezra now is including himself in that portion. Because he's a part of the we all, because that's our ancestral line, which we go all the way back to Adam. Not all of us go back to Adam. No, we are ascendants of Adamite, but this is what you would call prototype Israel. A prototype, not the real thing yet. Now, this is how it gets confusing later. And I won't jump there now because it will confuse you even more. That's why I said this is not necessary. This is very deep in terms of how you've got to get your mind thinking, not deep in terms of the content. All right. So, with me so far. A question? All right. I'll ask the question one more time. All right. I'm going to explain the breath of life, and I'm going to explain those who are outside of Eden. Let's go back. We have to look on 3 different groups of people. Let's see if I can hit that really quick. Quickly, if you please go to the book of Genesis chapter 32 and 28. Genesis 32 and 28. Go ahead and read. Let's do this real quick.
Genesis chapter 2 and verse 32 and verse 28.
Read.
And he said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel.
Israel. So that's the changeover now. Hello? We've got some feedback on that. Okay. So here we have, this is Israel now being called Israel, being called a prince, being called someone who has power with the Most High God, being called the prototype firstborn. Got that?
Sure.
So then that explains the sons of Israel, or the sons of the power, who are the sons of God. The second is the sons of men. The sons of men, we're going to go into in just a moment. I'll hit that in a minute, but I don't want to hit that just yet. And the third is the sons of the wicked. That you will find in Genesis chapter 4 and 16. Genesis chapter 4 and 16. Go ahead and read.
Genesis chapter 4 and verse 16. And Cain went out from the presence of the Most High, and dwelt in the land of Nod,
Go on.
On the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived, and bare Enoch. And
did what?
And bare Enoch.
Go on.
And he builded a city, and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch.
Now someone would turn around and say, well, I thought Enoch was a good person. Yes, but remember what I said. Remember this point. There is left-hand side and right-hand side to everything.
Come.
We studied the other day. And lust has a right-hand side, and lust has a left-hand side.
Come.
The left-hand side, as we know, is nefarious, it's wicked. The right-hand side, as we know, is like a desire to be with the Lord. I lust after the Lord. David said this, as a deer panteth after the water brook, so panteth my soul after thee, O God. That's a lusted after the Most High God. That's on the right-hand side. That's a good lust.
Come.
A man who lusts after his wife, that's a good lust.
That's right.
A man who lusts after a woman, even though he's married, that's a bad lust.
Come.
You see? So lust in itself had good and bad sides. And everything in life had good and bad. Here we read about Enoch, and Enoch we read is a good man. However, why is Enoch here with Cain? Because that is Enoch on the left-hand side.
Come.
So that's why you have to remember those basic principles. Go, run with me to 1 John chapter 3 and 11, please. 1 John chapter 3 and 11. Go ahead, as quick as you can.
1 John chapter 3 and verse 11.
Read.
For this is the message that ye heard from the beginning.
From where?
From the beginning.
Watch it now, go on.
That we should love one another.
Read on.
Not as Cain.
Not as who?
Not as Cain.
Not as Cain. Watch it now.
Who
Read.
was of that wicked one.
There it is. He was of the wicked one. That makes it absolutely, unequivocally clear.
Right.
Cain was of the wicked one. That's why we have sons of the wicked. Now I'll deal with the sons of man or the nations in just a moment. All right. So let's get back on track, and I will elucidate on that point a little bit more down the road as well, officer. All right. Now, where were we? Let's go back, if you please, to Genesis. Let's go to, where were we? 5 and 2. All right. Genesis 5 and 2, we just read. Good. Now let's go to Genesis chapter 6 and 1.
The book of Genesis, chapter 6 and verse 1.
Now we'll deal with the next question, which is the sons of men or the sons of the nation. Go ahead.
And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose.
So they took them wives of which they chose. In other words, what we do today is what we did at the beginning. We went to the other nations, we looked at their women, and we said, oh, I like that. So guess what we did? We put ourselves with the women of the other nations. So you think that this is something that we've just been doing? No, we've been doing it from the beginning. The Most High said, you stay with the Adamites. But no, you didn't want to stay with the Adamites. You want to go and see what type of selection do the sons of men have. And so you went and took a look over there. So let's read it again from the top.
Genesis chapter 6 and verse 1. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God...
The sons of God is us. Now remember, the term sons of God is used again interchangeably with angels as well. Remember, that's what the Catholics, that's what they did, to confuse, really, to create an ideology of what they thought the sons of God should be. But the sons of God that is speaking of here is not angel. And that's how we've been taught it in Christianity, that the angels came down, saw the daughters of men, and I was taught that for years. Years I was taught that. But that's not what it's saying. Because it's dealing with the sons of God. Who were the sons of God? The sons of God were the sons of Adam. The Adamites. We just read it. That's why we read it over 3 times, because I wanted it to be imprinted in your mind. So, stay with me. When we read that now, the sons of God, hold that. Go to Luke. Luke 8:38. Now, that's a scripture that we use to explain other things, but it will be useful in this case. Go on.
The book of Luke, chapter 8, verse 38.
Read.
Now, the man out of whom the devils were departed.
Luke 3:38. Luke 3:38. Luke 3:38.
The book of Luke, chapter 3 and verse 38.
Read.
Which was the son of Enos.
There we go. Watch it now.
Which was the son of Seth.
Follow.
Which was the son of Adam.
Read.
Which was the son of God.
So you see that. Adam is the son of God. It shows you all the way along. The son of Enos and all the way down. Because we're all sons of someone.
Okay.
And Adam, it says, is the son of God. He's the son of God. You got that? So, then when we read that and understand it, let's read verse 2 back in Genesis chapter 6 and 2 again.
Genesis chapter 6, verse 2.
Read.
That the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose.
Now, in case anyone's confused then, sons of God, but sons of God were angels. Remember what I said. It is used interchangeably.
Okay.
Go to First Job and go to Job 1 and 6. Job 1 and 6. Now you have to turn to these pages. I know that some of you are not. If you don't know, you won't have a connection with the scriptures. You disconnect yourself from the scriptures if you don't turn to the scriptures. You must turn to the scriptures. Go ahead, sir.
Job chapter 1, verse 6. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord.
Now it says there was a day when the sons of God, the angels, came to present themselves before the Most High. Read on.
And Satan came also among them.
And Satan came also among them. Why did he come as well? Because he is a son of God. What? This man I was listening to, I'm not going to listen to him no more. He called the devil a son of God. He's a demon. Well, if he was made by the Most High God, and he does the job and the work of the Most High God,
that's right.
Therefore, he must be a son of who made him.
That's right.
Son. It's just that he's a son on the left-hand side and not a son on the right-hand side. Now, I have to keep using left and right hand because, the positive and the negative, because if I don't, you won't get it. Question, go ahead. Yes. No. These are the angels. You see, what we find here is that the word sons of God was used interchangeably with us and the angels. Correct. You see, because the angels are active. In fact, let's stay in Job. Let me show you. Let me show you something. Staying in Job, run up, if you please, to Job 38 and verse 7.
The book of Job, chapter 38 and verse 7. He sealeth up the hand of every man.
Job 38 and verse 7.
Salakia. Job chapter 38, verse 7. When the morning stars Sang together.
Sang together. These now, if that's the term used for the angels, that's the correct term. They're morning stars. They were from the beginning. Then it says, and
all the sons of God shouted for joy.
So now all the spirits, us, that was in the Most High, we shouted for joy with him there. We were alive in him with the angelic beings, and we shouted for joy. See? Philippians chapter 2 and 15 gives us Philippians chapter 2 and 15. Watch what it says there. Go ahead.
Philippians chapter 2 and verse 15. That ye may be blameless.
That ye may be blameless. Watch it now.
And harmless.
And harmless.
The sons of God without rebuke.
The sons of God without rebuke. Read.
In the midst of a crooked and perverse nation, among whom ye shine as light in the world.
See that? That's powerful right there. I see. That's worth, if words could speak, 1,000,000 words would be jumping off the page right now on that. That ye may be blameless and harmless, the sons of God without rebuke in the midst of a crooked and perverse nation, among whom you shine as light in the world. Us. Us. Go ahead, sir. Ephesians, I don't remember what Ephesians 1:11 is. Let me go. Ephesians 1:11. In whom also we have obtained an inheritance, being predestined according to the purpose of him who worketh all things after the counsel of his own will. So yes. 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 Because nothing has changed. The plan of the Most High has not yet changed.
That's right.
And it won't change. Because if it changes, it's because he didn't know what was ahead. But because he's God, he already knew what was ahead. So when you set the plan, it was set and with no adjustment. That's why even the new covenant in Hebrews chapter 8 and 8, he knew what was coming down the pipe, so he had all that put in place. Well, let's stay on track. Let's get back now. All right? So, are we clear so far, ladies and gentlemen? Are we clear? Go ahead. Right. So, yes. So, why you see the term sons of God used with us and with the angels, it is definitely because of the translation. Also because when they were writing this, they were outlining their own narrative of how they wanted people to see the angels and see mankind or see us. They were giving their own flavor, their own perspective of it. But no matter what they did, the Most High already had something planned ahead. That's why when we now came along, he revealed the truth to us, that we now can decipher and know who we are according to this. We know who we are, because when we read it, we fit the whole profile. It's us. It will get clearer as we go along. All right. Here we go now. Where were we?
Genesis 6.
Genesis chapter 6 and 1. All right. We read Job chapter 1 and 6.
Okay.
Let's now go to Genesis chapter 28. Genesis 28 and 12. Genesis 28 and 12.
Okay.
Okay.
The book of Genesis, chapter 28 and verse 12. And he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. Now,
why is this important? Because of what we just read in Job chapter 6. Job chapter 1 and 6.
Okay.
Go back and read Job chapter 1 and 6. Because Satan was asked the question, where cometh thee? And he said, from going up and down in the earth.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So, read that. Again, read, sir.
Job chapter 1 verse 6. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord.
Read.
And Satan came also among them. And the Most High said unto Satan, whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Most High and said, from going to and fro in the earth.
Watch this. To and fro in the earth. Go back now to Genesis 28 and 12. Watch what it says.
Genesis chapter 28, verse 12.
Now you're going to see the to and fro. Go on.
And he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the earth.
Read.
And the top of it reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of God ascending and descending on it.
See that? So that shows you how, when he said he was going backwards and forwards to the earth and backwards and forwards, here you see that Jacob saw this in a vision. The Most High opened him up so he could see how the celestial beings traffic from heaven to earth on a continual basis. They're continually going backwards and forwards. Why? Because when you die, your spirit has to be taken back to who made it. Do you know your way back? No. So they come get you. So they're constantly going backwards and forwards. Because your spirit don't know how to get back there. The angels do know how to get back there. And your spirit belongs to him. But those other devils said that they go to the earth, they go to hell, don't they? No. No. All spirit goes back to him. All spirit. Are you telling me then that Jeffrey Dahmer, his spirit went back to the Lord? Yes. Why? Because the spirit belongs to the Most High God.
Okay, 3:20.
Better still. Go to Job chapter 3. Job chapter 3 and go to read verse 17.
Job chapter 3 verse 17. There the wicked cease from troubling, and there the weary be at rest.
Read.
There the prisoners rest together. They
Hold it. Rest how?
The prisoners rest together.
All spirits are together. Go on.
They hear not the voice of the oppressor.
Read.
The small and great are there, and the servant is free from his master.
Read.
Wherefore is light, even Salaki. Wherefore is light given to him that is in misery, and life unto the bitter in soul.
See that? So everybody goes back to the Most High God. All spirit, I don't care how wicked you are, your spirit goes back to he who made it. Yes, ma'am.
So that's why the Bible says that they see spirits coming, or they see whoever.
Yeah, they give the nonsense that they see a tunnel, which is garbage, of course, but because there's no tunnel. But what they see is a light. In fact, if you read it, it says go back and read it again.
Job chapter 3 and verse 20. Wherefore is light given to him that is in misery, and life unto the bitter in soul.
Read on.
Which long for death.
But see that? So you see how death is tied right into it? The light that needed to almost guide them back to where they're going to go. So yes, they do see a light, but this tunnel nonsense, that's nonsense.
But some people, like when they die, they just looking like in a
Yes.
And I guess he was saying,
Yeah, but for some, that they can see their end. Oh yes, that I don't doubt. That I don't doubt at all. Because as you're dying, your mind is losing connection with this world and preparing to switch to the next. That I don't doubt. As I said before, anyway, yes. So let's get back. All right. So let's go back to first. Did we read Job again? We did. Right. Go to Second Ezra. Second Ezra 1. Second Ezra chapter 1, and we're going to read verse 38. Second Ezra chapter 1 and verse 38. Everybody good? Everybody there? All right, let's go.
Second Ezra chapter 1, verse 38. And now, brother, behold, what glory, and see the people that cometh from the east.
Watch this now. Follow it closely, otherwise you're going to miss it. That's why I said everyone needs to turn to the pages, otherwise you won't know what I'm talking about. Read.
Unto whom I will give for leaders Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Oseas, Amos, and Micah, Joel, Obadiah, and Jonas, Nahum, and Habakkuk, Sophonias, and Aggeus, Zachary, and Malachi, which is called also an angel of the Lord.
I'm sorry, what did you just say?
Which is called also an angel of the Lord.
What did you just say?
Which is also, which is called also an angel of the Lord.
So Malachi is called also an angel of the Lord.
Come.
This answers Sister Brenda's question from the other night, because she wanted teaching on the angels. So you see that? Do you see that? Malachi is called an angel of the Lord.
Come.
An angel of the Lord. Everybody see that?
Come.
Now, let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 29. 1 Samuel chapter 29. 1 Samuel chapter 29. Stay with me, please. Yep. 29 and read verse 9.
The book of 1 Samuel, chapter 29, verse 9.
Read.
And Achish answered and said to David, I know that thou art good in my sight, as an angel of God.
As what?
As an angel of God.
So he's called an angel of God. Read it again, because otherwise you're going to miss it.
And Achish answered and said to David, I know that thou art good in my sight.
You are good in my sight, David. Go on.
As an angel of God.
And David, you are an angel of God. Go on.
Notwithstanding, the prince of the Philistines have said, he shall not go up with us to battle.
So you see that the same Malachi was called, you just read it, right? Malachi was called the angel of the Lord, and now David is called the angel of God. Got that? Very important that you don't miss it. Let's go into Genesis chapter 6 and 2. Genesis chapter 6 and 2, let's begin reading.
Genesis chapter 6 and verse 2. That the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair.
That they were what?
That they were fair.
So this was the beginning of what we call mixing with the nation. Or, by a more modernistic term, interracial marriages. Interracial marriages. You see how it's all been in front of us all this time?
Yes, sir.
Interracial marriages. So Sirach 17 and 17.
Rock, page 80, chapter 17, verse 17.
Read.
For in the division of the nations of the whole earth, he set a ruler over every people, but Israel is the Lord's portion.
Letting you know that all the other nations had rulers. Israel was meant to be led only by the Most High God.
Come.
Make sense to you?
That's right.
Israel was meant to be led by the Most High God. And it makes it very clear that it said all the other nations, it says, for the dividing of the nations, I made sure that they all had their own leaders. But when it came down to Israel, Israel is my portion. Read the next verse.
Verse 18. Whom being his firstborn.
So that was the first prototype, firstborn. The whole nation is his firstborn. That's why we, as the firstborn, we are entitled to double of everything.
Come.
So, Deuteronomy 32 and 8, run there. Quick.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 32 and verse 8.
Now this one, just make a note. You don't have to turn there, but read what you got.
When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance.
See that? So we're reading that to prove that it's not just in the Apocrypha, it's also in the other part of the Bible as well. So because some people turn around and say, see, that's only in fact, it's not in the King James. Well, the Apocrypha is the King James.
Come.
But watch what it says. Read 32 and 8.
Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 8.
Read.
When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel.
According to the number of the children of Israel. See that? So the scripture is balancing itself out. There's no mistakes here.
That's right.
No mistake, ladies and gentlemen, none. As I said, the scripture is crystal clear in what it's trying to convey to us. Come? All right. So from here now, let's go to 2nd Ezra chapter 8. 2nd Ezra chapter 8 and 19, begin at 18.
Yes, sir. 2nd Ezra chapter 8 and verse 19. Therefore,
begin at 18.
Salaki, 2nd Ezra chapter 8 and verse 18. But I have heard the witness of the judge which is to come. Therefore, hear my voice and understand my words.
Go on.
And I shall speak before thee. This is the beginning of the words of Esdras.
Go on.
Before he was taken up, and I said, O Lord, thou that dwellest.
On what verse are you reading?
Verse 19. Verse 20 now.
I'll go back and read 19 again.
Select. Verse 19.
In fact, go back and read 18 again.
Come. Verse 18. But I have said, Select, but I have heard the swiftness.
Hold it. Read 18.
This is 2nd Ezra, chapter 8 and verse 18.
Chapter 9.
Salakia. 2nd Ezra, chapter 9 and verse 18.
Now, watch this now. Read.
And now, when I prepared the world,
watch it now,
which was not yet made.
When I prepared the world, which was not yet made, meaning he had everything in place, but he didn't yet make it. Read.
Even for them.
Even for them.
To dwell in that now live.
To dwell which now live.
No man spake against me.
So that means in the heavenlies, when they were all spirits, none of them spoke against the Most High God. None of the spirits. None of them. None of them. Stay with me. None of them. None of them. Are you with me?
Come.
Then what should it say, verse 19?
Verse 19. For then everyone obeyed.
So in the heavenlies, everyone obeyed. Everyone obeyed. Read.
But now the manners of them which are created in this world,
now when they got their fleshly bodies and were put into this world, read,
that is made are corrupted.
They now come into this world and they become corrupted. Go on.
By a perpetual seed.
By a perpetual seed.
And by a law.
And by a law.
Which is unsearchable.
Which is unclear because it's out there. We don't know what it is. Go on.
Rid themselves.
See? Read the next verse.
So I considered the world.
So I had to think about this world.
And behold, there was peril because of the devices that were come into it.
So remember, when they were in heaven, everybody obeyed. I mean, every spirit obeyed. Everyone. Every one of them. Then, when the earth was now put together, put the spirits in the earth, and when he put them in the earth, now they started to act cantankerous. They couldn't have, what? What is happening, Most High? Because of a perpetual seed that he already put to cause this to happen. Come on. Does that make sense to you so far, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah? So you have to think about this. Go on, let's go. All right, so we've got that. Let's go to Sirach chapter 1 and 15. Now we're going to see he made the world. He had, and they all began to become disobedient. What happened to me? What did I say?
Sirach 1 and 15.
1 and 15. Let's read it.
The book of Sirach, chapter 1 and verse 15, page 71. She has built an everlasting foundation with men, and she shall continue with their seed.
Go on.
To fear the Lord is fullness of wisdom, and filleth men with her fruits. She filleth all her house with things desirable. And
go back and read 15 again.
Come.
In fact, read 14. Come on down.
Come. Sirach, chapter 1, verse 14. To fear the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and it was created with the faithful in the womb. Read. She has built an everlasting foundation with men.
With what?
With men.
Everlasting foundation with men.
And she shall continue with their seed.
Oh, and she shall what?
And she shall continue with their seed.
With their seed. So it's only the seed that he wants that will continue, not the other nations. That's why he destroyed everyone and started all over again with the seed that he wanted. And she shall continue with their seed. Are you with me so far? All right. Let's go back to Genesis chapter 6. Let's read verse 2 and 3 now. Not far to go.
Genesis chapter 6, verse 2. That the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And the Most High said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years.
So as you can see, we read where the scripture said that man will live up to 100 years old, and by reason of strength even to 120. Now, but that's it. Man will not go any further than that. Even in this day and age, you'll find that men won't go much further than that. That's about as far as they will go. All right. Any questions before I go any further? Because I'm getting ready to wrap this up now, but I want to make sure that everybody is clear. Right. Let's go there. Let's go to Psalm. Quote it again. No, Psalm
book of Psalms, chapter 102, verse 28.
Read.
The children of thy servants shall continue, and their seed shall be established before thee.
Shall be established before thee. Because he made a seed that is going to be an everlasting seed. All other seeds will diminish. The seed that he had will continue. John? Let's go to 2nd Ezra chapter 5. 2nd Ezra chapter 5. And we're going to read verse 54. Read it already.
2nd Ezra chapter 5, verse 54.
Read.
Consider thou therefore also how that ye are less of stature than those that were before you.
Now, the reason why you have to read that, because you've got to go back to Genesis chapter 6 and verse 3. So it spoke about giants in the earth. Now, the babies back then were bigger. Babies were bigger. Now, sister's saying, are you kidding me? So, here, when we read again, read Genesis chapter 6 and 3.
Genesis chapter 6 and verse 3. And the Most High said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years.
Read on.
There were giants in the earth in those days.
Men of stature, men of great stature. Now, the reason why it uses the word giant, because again, in the translation, anyone over a certain height was considered to be a giant. Now, let's make sense of that. If you go back to the turn of the century, the 19th century, you'll find that most of the men back in 1920s, late 1800s coming through, the average height of the man was 5'5", 5'6". That's why when you see dresses of women like Becky Grable and all of those, it looks like a child's dress because they were small. You know, Jean Harlow, all of those, they were small women. They were tiny. The men were small. Look, James Cadney. James Cadney was about 5'4", 5'3". Then the film, they look like a big guy. All of these so-called guys and gangsters back then as well, like Al Capone and all of the, what's his name, McFiddy and all of those. They were all small. They were all 5'3", 5'4", 5'5" men. That's why when they saw a man who was 6 foot, you're considered to be, you're a big guy. Now, bear this in mind as well. Jack Johnson was 6'1", in fact. Jack Johnson was my height. Jack Johnson was considered to be a giant. Heaven only knows what you would be considered. Jack Johnson, he was a heavyweight champion, and they considered him to be a big guy. 6'1". Because now, 6 foot happens to be kind of a norm now. So you'll see that men's height have been increasing. Even the basketball players, they started to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Why is that? Because what the Most High is doing, he's bringing everything back in order, and he's psychologically training our minds that such thing is not irregular. Not irregular. So as we're seeing change come about, we're seeing men who are bigger. You see the football players, they look huge. You take a linebacker, and if you were to take him and put him back in time, they'd say, this man is, that's Goliath. Yeah. Because men were smaller. So when you read the scripture here, read what it says.
Genesis chapter 6, verse 4. There were giants in the earth in those days.
Read.
And also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men.
Unto the daughters of men. See that? Go on.
And they bare children to them. And they bare children to them.
And they bare children to them. Read.
The same became mighty men,
Read.
which were of old men, of renown.
Of renown. Now go back to what you just read.
2 Ezra, chapter 5 and verse 54.
Read.
Consider thou therefore also how that ye are less of stature.
See, you're smaller today, read,
than those that were before you.
See that now? You see how it makes sense? You see how it's linking in? And those were before you. Read.
And so are they that come after you less than ye, as the creatures which now begin to be old, and have passed over the strength of youth.
So you see, all this is hidden in the scriptures. I know that the scriptures haven't gone anywhere.
Come.
Scriptures have never gone anywhere. It's always been there.
Come.
But remember, we failed because the Christianity taught you come to church, the preacher opens his book, he takes one verse, and he expounds on that for an hour, gets you excited, and then you run around, and you leave there excited, but with no knowledge. That's why the scripture said, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. When you go to church, the preacher is meant to, in Amos, it says that the prophet is meant to bring you understanding. You're meant to take you, open the book, and as you open the book, you're learning, and things are going on. Listen, when you leave here, you're meant to leave here with this in your mind. Ooh, wow. If you're not leaving here with your mind illuminated, what's the point? You're meant to be wiser, not stupid. I was going to say stupid. There's no such word as stupid. You're meant to be brighter, because when you speak to people, you're meant to be able to convey to them. You're meant to do it.
That's right.
You're meant to be explain this from the scripture to people. People go, wow, where do you get that from? And some of you right now can confound some of these preachers in these churches. I kid you not. Yes. You can confound them. Yes. Because what they'll do, and bear this in mind, this is a trick that they use, they'll ask you 6 questions all at once. Because that's their way of taking you off point and making you look silly. And what you have to do is take control and say, hold on a moment, hold on. You asked me 6 questions. Which one do you want to answer?
Come.
Which one? Now, once you tell me which one, I'll answer. But I'm not going to answer 6.
That's right.
That's what they do. It's one of the things that they do every time. Are we understanding this, ladies and gentlemen? All right, let's go back. Genesis chapter 6. Let's read verse 5 and 6 now, please.
Yes, sir. The book of Genesis, chapter 6 and verse 5. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth,
read,
and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually.
Go on.
And it repented the Most High that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart.
And his heart. Go to Romans chapter 6 and verse, Romans chapter 8 and verse 6. Romans chapter 8 and verse 6.
The book of Romans, chapter 8 and verse 6.
Come on, I don't hear any pages turning. For you brothers. Romans chapter what?
8 and verse 6.
Let's read.
For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life.
Is what?
Is life.
Is life. Read on.
And peace.
And peace. Go on.
Because the carnal mind is enmity against God.
Read.
For it is not subject to the law of God.
It's not subject to the law of the Most High God. It's not subject. Not subject at all. And the precept we have for that is in 2 Ezra
2 Ezra, chapter 3 and verse 5.
Now, this, you have to read it slowly, because we don't want people to miss this, because this is going to confound some of you if you're not reading it carefully.
2 Ezra, chapter 3 and verse 5.
Read.
And gavest a body unto Adam without soul, which was the workmanship of thine hands.
Read.
And didst breathe into him the breath of life.
All right.
And he was made living before thee.
All right. Explain that, Johanna. Remember what I said.
Man was without a soul before he gave. So when he
Say that again, sir.
man was without a soul until he breathed life. We sometimes say the
Excellent,
man.
excellent, 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 and excellent again.
Come.
Man was without soul until he breathed into him life. Now, let's look at what life is that speaking about. What life is that speaking about? What life is that speaking about? Lazarus, what life is that speaking about? Come. Well done. Last night's teaching was not in vain.
Come.
All right. The law. So what life did he not have? What breath did he not have? The law. You see? All the other nations did not have the breath.
That's right.
But Adam and his seed, they had the breath. They had it. Let's go back. Window. Where do we find that in Genesis?
In Genesis chapter.
Yeah, I know, but where? Come on. Come on, brother. All right, sister, tell me. Sorry? 7. Genesis chapter 2 and 7.
Genesis chapter 2 and verse 7. And the Most High God formed man of the dust of the ground.
Go on.
And breathed into his nostrils.
Are you seeing this? And breathed into his nostrils. Read.
The breath of life.
The breath of life. Hold that, sir. Go back to 2 Ezra chapter 3 and verse 5 and read it again.
2 Ezra chapter 3 and verse 5. And gavest a body unto Adam.
Adam got a body, read.
Without soul.
But it didn't have a soul. Read.
Which was the workmanship of thine hand.
So the body was the workmanship of his hand. Go on.
And didst breathe into him the breath of life.
Read.
And he was made living before thee.
Now we, because we are the descendants of Adam, we have the breath that was blown into us. What is that breath? The law.
That's right.
The law. The law. The law. The law. That's the breath. Wisdom of Solomon. I think it's chapter 1 and 22, but find it for me, please. I think it's 1 and 22 or 7 and 22, but one of those.
Not one.
722?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
The book of Wisdom of Solomon, page 62. Chapter 7, verse 22. For wisdom, which is the worker of all things, taught me, for in her is the understanding spirit.
Understanding spirit. Read, Baba.
Holy, one only, manifold, salaki, subtle, lively, clear, undefiled, plain, not subject to hurt, loving the thing that is good, quick, which cannot be letted, ready to do good.
That's what the Lord does to us and makes us apt to do what? Apt to do those things.
Come.
Wisdom of Solomon, page 62. It is powerful.
That's right.
Jump down and read verse 24.
Verse 24. For wisdom is more moving than any motion. She passeth and goeth through all things by reason of her pureness.
Now watch this. Here we go again. 25. Hit it.
Verse 25. For she is the breath of the power of God.
Breath of the power of Yahweh. Read.
And a pure influence.
Read.
Flowing from the glory of the Almighty. Therefore can no defiled thing fall into her. Boy, I got stars by that.
Get to be excited right there. Glory be. I mean, do you need anything more than that on that? I mean, it's just wonderful. Right, so the church, that's what the church taught. The church taught you because for the lack of understanding.
Come.
And people perish when they have no understanding. Because we die in ignorance. And that's what they taught. So this is, now you begin to see that the breath that was breathed into us, that was the life. That was the law. We live and have life. The scripture says if you are outside of the law, you are where? In the congregation of what? Of the dead. You're a dead man. But you're outside of that. So when you are in the law, you are in the truth.
That's right.
It's wonderful, isn't it?
Come.
The truth. You shall know the truth. What truth?
The law.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I noticed the more that I started teaching the word for myself, the more I couldn't go back.
No.
Oh, praise.
People in the church would just pick up the Bible for themselves
Right.
and stop waiting on their pastor.
Yep.
They're not going to be able to teach. They won't, because it doesn't line up.
Come on.
I mean, just like being in the word, like it says, being in it and grabbing the wisdom,
Right.
it's going to push you away from Sunday doctrine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because the truth, will make you free.
That's right.
And once you're free from something, how do you go back to the weak and the bigger elements of it?
Change.
See? It's just madness. It's just absolute madness. All right. From there, let's go forward. Go to Romans chapter 8 and 5, please. Romans chapter 8 and 5. Let's go.
Romans chapter 8 and verse 5. For they that are after the flesh do mind the things of the flesh.
They what?
Do mind the things of the flesh.
Read.
But they that are after the Spirit,
They that are after the Spirit.
the things of the Spirit.
Wow.
Oh.
All right. Yeah, go ahead. Take a minute. Break that down a little bit there.
Come. Well, basically, when it's saying those who are of the Spirit are of this, let's go to the book of St. John, chapter 6, verse 63. St. John, chapter 6, and verse 63. It reads, It is the Spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. That's what we were talking about in Romans chapter 8 and 5. It says, the flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life.
They are what?
They are spirit and they are life.
They are spirit and they are life.
Come.
All right. Let's get to 2 Peter chapter 2 and 4 now.
2 Peter chapter 2 and verse 4.
Let's read it slowly.
4. If God spare not the angels that sinned.
Well, if he spared not Israel that sinned, because that's primarily what it's saying. Go on.
But cast them down to hell.
So they were kicked out of Eden. Kicked out of paradise. Go on.
And delivered them into chains of darkness.
And now put them in a place where to them it's darkness. Why? Because the light of God they're not experiencing as they once did. The chains of darkness is the conditions that's holding them ransom. And then on a literal note, many of our people are imprisoned under the hand of Esau anyway. They are in captivity to Esau.
That's right.
Go on.
To be reserved unto judgment.
So now we cannot go back into the kingdom or into heaven, which was where we were, until we stay in that reserved position that we're in, because right now we all are reserved. Reserved meaning that judgment is coming to the earth. And some of us are going to be destroyed by the nuclear destruction, and some of us are going to be spared from it. So we're reserved for that. Go on.
Verse 5. And spared not the old world.
And spared not what?
And spared not the old world.
Go on.
But saved Noah.
But saved what?
But saved Noah.
But saved Noah. Go on.
The eighth person, a preacher of righteousness, bringing in the flood upon the world. Bringing in the flood upon the world of the ungodly.
Of the ungodly.
That's right.
So now we are down in hell, reserved for the judgment, and we cannot return to the kingdom of the Most High God until we have faced the judgment that we've yet to face. Yes, go ahead.
2 Peter 2 and 4 and 5. Kind.
From here, let's go to Revelation chapter 20 and verse 4. Revelation chapter 20. Revelation chapter 20 and verse 4. So now you're learning who the angels are. Now, I might have to pull up some other bits and pieces, but go ahead. So Revelation chapter 20 and 4, go ahead.
Revelation chapter 20 and verse 4.
Watch this now.
And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them.
Read.
And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahushua.
Read.
And for the word of God, and which had not worshipped the beast.
Beast is Rome, nature, and all of those things go on.
Neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their forehead, or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with the Mashiach 1,000 years.
Now, to understand this, you will find that the mark of the beast has already begun. We have been receiving it by way of teaching, by way of philosophizing, and all of those things. The culmination of it will be when we finally, or some of our people finally, accept and allow the chip to be put in us. Now, there are some camps who don't believe in chip. Well, that's good for you. But all of the way that things are going and have shown itself, that there is indeed a real chip that's now in action. It's in action now. Now, America right now, who is the leader, is a little bit behind on it, because over in Europe, it's out. It's out. the chip is in dogs, cats right now, in military individuals, and in certain, there's certain prisoners now that they have put it in, that they can't cut it out, because if they cut it out, it will kill them. They use it all manner of different things to ensure that this becomes a reality. And the scripture is making it very clear to us. So this is not something that is a science fiction. It's science fact. All right. You had a question.
Yeah, I would just say the first they tried it was a black man up in Wisconsin. I think math from the University of Wisconsin. They tried on a black man. They had it on. I don't know if it's still out, but they had it on YouTube.
See, that's the type of thing that
Yeah.
if you come across that, send it to everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, let's get into a habit. Don't see these type of, shattering news and don't send it, because we have to be witnesses to that. You see? Because this is part of how we can argue and drive points home. Yes, ma'am.
Do you think like they put the chip in his
Oh, they've done that. That's what they've done.
Because I know this person that's in his system,
Yeah.
in his system, is an hour.
Right.
And he says that they have something to him with, I don't know, they like strip watches, and they be telling him to do certain things.
Yeah.
So but he's saying like, he knows that he's hearing their voice and tell him to do certain things, and even while he's out,
Right.
like being controlled
Right.
by his voice.
Well, again, remember, psychotropic drugs have been about since the 60s and 70s. And actually have been used in what they call espionage warfare, to make intelligent people sound like they're stupid or foolish. So these things are out, and they're still being used. Nothing has changed in that regard. Here is the situation, however, that the governments have been experimenting on prisoners for the longest time, and in the supermax prison, there are prisoners who are in there. In fact, all the prisoners that are in there, they all have it in them. Because if the time ever came that these men had to be released, they want to know where they are. And remember what I said earlier, they put it in such a way that to get it out, it would kill them. You see? So whoever's going to do the surgery, they better be on the same level as the people who put it in. Now remember, these are very expensive surgery that they're doing. So there must be something in this. But remember, they don't do nothing without there being a reason behind it. Because we think about the virus that's around now, the C-19 that's going on all over the world. We all know that they have a cure. They have a cure. Because you don't create a poison like that without having the antidote to it. Because the people who are messing with it, can you imagine you're in the laboratory messing with this and then you release it and everybody gets killed? So what do? Once you know what it is, the strain is, you start making something that can combat it. Because should something be released, people want to live if they're going to continue to experiment, right? It's the sensible thing, and that's what they do. But they're waiting until this thing becomes so large that people will look at what people do for some toilet paper. They're knocking people out in stores, right? Mm-hmm. Toilet paper, really? And they're fighting each other for bread. Right now, you go to the stores. I mean, who would have thought? We just spoke about this maybe 2 or 3 months ago, maybe 4 or 5 months ago. We were talking about what was going on in South America. There's no food on the shelves and all this business. You go into the supermarket now, where there was food, it's like, you know how it's packed up in there with food. It's hard. It's scanty now. Is this a
a look into the future of what's happening. And how many people now buy hand cleansers and all of these things? Are you telling me you're such a dirty person? You weren't using that before? I mean, hand wipes, cleansers and all that. I mean, good Lord, I keep those things in my truck. I'm shaking hands with people all day long. And sometimes I can't get to a tap. I'm wiping that whatever, slapping that thing on. Because, you know, you don't know what you're going to. And I'm going into homes. And some of you in here, professor, you know you're going to homes. And some of them, look, I went to some homes. I have to put on a whole bodysuit and mask to go into that home because it is so putrid. So everyone's getting mad about being clean now? Too late. Go ahead.
Yeah, I had this happened in August 17, 2018, but the one I'm talking about, the black man was the first in this company. But it says the president did a 3-star market of technology company to provide self-service mini markets to hospitals, hotels, and company break rooms. Last August, he became workers one of 50 employees at his headquarters in River Falls, Wisconsin, who volunteered to have a chip injected into their hand, and they loved it.
Had to be a Negro.
They loved it.
Had to be a Negro who volunteered to have the chip put in him.
Never.
Really?
Said he loved it.
And he loved it. All right, let's get back to this because otherwise, you know, I'm going to get my vexation of spirit. All right, so where were we, ladies and gentlemen? Revelation chapter 20 and 4. We read it. Let's put a precept for that. Let's go to Jude chapter 1 and 7 and 2 Peter.
The book of Jude, chapter 1, verse 7 reads, even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh, are set forth for an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire.
2 Peter 2 and 5. 2 Peter 2 and 5. Let's go there.
2 Peter chapter 2 and verse 5.
Let's read.
And spared not the old world, but saved Noah, the 8th person, a preacher of righteousness, bringing in the flood upon the world of the ungodly.
Of the ungodly. All right. Jump now to, let's go back to Revelation chapter 20 and 4. Let's go back there for a quick minute. I just want to prove to you about another angel. Revelation chapter 20, let's begin at verse 1.
Revelation chapter 20 and verse 1.
Read.
And I saw another angel come down from heaven.
Now, this angel that's speaking about, this is dealing with Septimius Severus. Septimius Severus. The word Septimius means to cut. Severus is the Latin word for 7. This happened round about 145 to 211 CE, Common Era. This angel was an Israelite who was a gladiator. And he was the one who took over Rome and became one of the first black emperors of Rome. And he is the angel that the scripture is speaking about. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the keys of the bottomless pit. Because that lets us know that we're dealing with Europe. And a great chain in his hand. That chain is slavery, because he was indeed a slave. He was a gladiator. See that? Is that making sense to you so far? Yes, no, what?
One means cut. What's his first name mean?
Septimius
Right.
Severus.
What it means?
Septimius means cut.
And the Severus.
And Severus, like Severus, operating in roles. And if you find that hard to believe, let's quickly just go to Revelation chapter 2, or chapter 1, chapter 2, and verse 1.
Revelation chapter 2 and verse 1. Unto the angel of the church of Ephesus, right.
Of Ephesus. And you'll find that again in verse 8. Read.
Revelation chapter 2, verse 8. And unto the angel of the church in Samaria, right.
Verse 12.
Verse 12. And to the angel of the church in Pergamos, right.
Verse 18.
Verse 18. And unto the angel of the church in Thyatira, right.
So all these are dealing with those who are in leadership. It is also dealing with the leadership, but it's also dealing with the seven spirits of the Most High God. Which is a different teaching entirely, but it's all interwoven, intertwined.
That's right.
So let's go now back to Revelation chapter 17 and 6, please. Revelation chapter 17 and 6. Let's read.
Revelation chapter 17 and verse 6. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, and with the blood
now,
of...
remember, this woman is speaking about is that woman who brought us into slavery. The woman is Babylon.
Good.
And she's drunk now with the blood of the saints because she has destroyed us and killed us. Go on.
And with the blood of the martyrs.
The martyr is a person who does what? One who dies for a cause, primarily a religious cause. So, and I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Yahushua. And when I saw her, read,
I wondered with great admiration.
I wondered with great admiration. Now go back to Revelation chapter 20 and verse 4. It's all interlinked, all intertwined. Read it again.
Revelation chapter 20 and verse 4. And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment.
Now let's understand the thrones. The thrones are all of the philosophies, all of the policies, all of the governments and democracies. Because remember, America pushes democracy wherever it goes. And democracy is a false flag put out there to cause people to drop their guard, and then they come in with a left hook and knock you out. So those are the thrones, those are the positions. When we read it further,
and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them.
Read.
And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahushua.
Read.
And for the word of God, and which had not worshipped the beast.
The beast is those, that NATO, all of those things that's happening over in Europe, Roman Catholicism, all those things are seemingly likened to the beast. Let's finish it.
Neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Yahushua 1,000 years.
All right, from there, let's go to 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and verse 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and 14. Let's read.
1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and verse 14. For if we believe that Yahushua died and rose again, even so, them also which sleep in Yahushua will God bring with him.
Read.
For this we say unto you by the word of the Lord, that we which are alive and remain unto the coming of the Lord shall not prevent them which are asleep. For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God. And the dead in the Mashiach shall rise first. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And so shall we ever be with the Lord.
Shall we ever be with the Lord? Let's close out with Psalm 91. Psalm 91, let's read.
To the top. Psalms chapter 91, verse 1. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall...
You who continue to study, you who are in this word, you who dwell in this word, this is the secret place. Go on.
So like shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty.
Go on.
I will say of the Most High, he is my refuge and my fortress.
So he's my protector. This word protects me because I abide by the law of this word. Because the law of the Lord is perfect. And what does it do? The law of the Lord is perfect what?
Converting the soul.
It converts the soul, then what? No, that's right. Find it. Because we always leave at that little piece.
Psalms chapter 19 and verse 7.
Read.
The law of the Most High is perfect.
It's perfect, go on.
Converting the soul.
So it's complete and it converts the soul.
The testimony.
There is the one that everybody misses out. The testimony. The testimony.
Psalms chapter 19, verse 7.
Always write down the scripture the moment it's given. Read it again.
The law of the Most High is perfect, converting the soul.
Converting the soul.
The testimony of the Most High is sure.
It is sure. Go on.
Making wise the simple.
Now it makes wise the simple. Go back.
Psalms chapter 91, verse 1.
Now let's read verse 3.
Verse 3. Surely he shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler.
Read.
And from the noisome pestilence.
And from the noisome pestilence. So it's letting you know that regardless of what the enemy has out there, the perilous dangers, we are going to survive.
Good.
Go on.
He shall cover thee with his feathers.
Even though we are separated when we leave the gathering, he says we are going to be covered by his feathers. Read.
And under his wings.
And under his wings, we don't have to worry about anything because he covers us. When you are under his wing, you are covered. Go on.
Shalt thou trust.
Shall we trust? Read.
His truth shall be thy shield.
It shall be our shield.
And buckler.
And our buckler. Why is that so important? Because what you must remember is that the buckler, okay, some of you don't know what that is, that's like a miniature shield. You'll see movies where a Roman gladiator will be fighting with a tiny shield and a sword. Not a large shield, it's like a tiny shield. Why? Because that same shield can be used, they can hit a man with it.
Can.
You see? You can also use it to manipulate somebody's sword or somebody's, what's the fork the trident.
Can.
You can manipulate and block someone's trident. So all of these things are written here for us to gain wisdom from it. It's not happenstance or an accident. Go on.
Thou shalt not be afraid.
And we mustn't be afraid. Don't be afraid of what the enemy's bringing. Don't be afraid when you go to the stores and there's no food. Don't be afraid of when people are beginning to argue and fight with one another. Don't be afraid because we know he is more than a conqueror.
Can.
Go on.
For the terror by night.
Read.
nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. 1,000 shall fall at thy side.
You will see and hear on the news of hundreds dying and falling.
And 10,000 at thy right hand.
And you will hear it on the other side too.
But it shall not come nigh thee.
It will not come nigh us.
Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold, and see the reward of the wicked.
And we are getting just a glimpse now. This is just a glimpse. This is just a taste of what's happening. Salam. Any questions? Any questions online from officer? Any questions from you here? 2 or 3.
All right. You got any questions, Officer Hughes? No.
All right. Any questions? Go ahead. Yes. Yes. Correct. Because remember that he's covered by him. Wife was covered by her husband. Sorry? Cain represents Jesus. Yes. Abel was killed off, but the Most High sent another, which was Seth. Right. Yeah. Yes, indeed. And any more? Any more questions? Feel free. Go ahead, sir.
Jude 1:7.
Well, Jude 1:7 we read today, and Romans what? How did it go? Romans 7. Can't. Gotcha. Yeah. But these vessels we're in right now, they're limited. This is our prison. This body right now, we're chained to it. And this is darkness. Because the superpower we had in the beginning that made our men tall and strong and fast. And remember, bear this in mind, that our people, we did great exploits. When you look at some of the structures, you have to ask yourself, how did we build those things? Today, with all of the modern architectural and engineering machinery, they still can't accomplish it. And so then, you've got to remember as well that we also had great strength. And we could pick things up. Then, we can't even think about even trying to push or let alone lift. So we don't have the strength. Strength is lesser. And also, bear in mind, your brain is not used to its maximum. You only use a very small part of your brain now in this present moment. But in the kingdom to come, the full capacity of your brain will be at use. The full capacity. And bear in mind as well, look, we are the greatest inventors in the world. Never been given any credit for it. Never. Yet, remember, even Napoleon Bonaparte, when he went to Egypt and he saw the pyramids and the Sphinx and all of those things, he said it's impossible for these people to make those things. He couldn't accept it. So what did he do? He took his cannons and blew the nose off of all of the objects that had a face on them, so that the world would never know that these were broad-nosed, thick-lipped people. Listen, down in Mexico, even and that's why we're at odds with even our Mexican brothers, because we have statues down there, heads that we dug up. I can't remember their name now. Olmecs, yes. They've dug the heads up, and they have turned around, and they are shocked. Why? Because they have had to confess that their descendants were broad-nosed, thick-lipped individuals. See, they would have been more satisfied if it looked more European to them, because it would have justified their existence. But really what now is showing that their existence is mute. You're just a mixed-up bunch of people, you know, and the people who are the people are the ones that look like the rest of the Negroes that are around. So the world is against us, and even our own is against us. All right. Any other questions?
You have a question online? Go ahead.
Question?
Say it again.
Come on.
Come.
No other nation had angels assigned to them. None of them. Oh, but we have these angels. No, you don't. No, you don't. In fact, if you read the scriptures clearly, the only angels that are assigned to you are the angels who have been assigned to make you do corruptive things. Left-hand side. That's why. Look, they can kill easy. They kill almost as if it means nothing. They can cheat you out of something. They can be with you 1 minute and switch you like a flip of a coin. Because the angels that's with them have been. Remember, the scripture says that they didn't have a soul. They don't have a soul. We have a soul. Why do we have a soul? Because we have the law. And the law is what gives us life. Scripture says that if you're outside of the law, you're like those who wander in the congregation of the dead. So, let's go ahead. Say that again.
Earlier you said we've been missing for a long time.
Right.
So we're very unique throughout generations.
Yes.
But still,
right. Correct. Someone who is outside of Israel can't follow the law. And even if they follow the law, it means nothing to them. Now, where do we have the answer for that? Because the scripture says that there are those who will come to him and yet it says that we cast out devils. We did all those wonderful things. Don't you think that Benny Hinn's going to come and say, but I cast out all those devils? Yes, he's going to come and say all of that. I blew them away. Do you think the Most High God is going to accept it? He's going to say, depart from me, workers of iniquity. So they're going to believe that they can. But look, like Rob Parsley, he thinks he's already got his feet already lined up next to the Most High. They don't have no portion with him at all. We read that the scripture said that Israel is the Lord's portion. He doesn't care about the others. And if we struggle with that, it's because a little bit of Christianity is still plaguing in our
God.
So this white preacher told you that you were a Jew? Okay, all right. Okay, and you know what that is now. Another, what you were with? No. What, no.
No, it's a Sabbath keeping church?
Yeah. What was his name again? Armstrong? Armstrong was big time. In fact, he had the nerve to turn around and say, I know that I'm from the descendants of David. Really? I'd like to really see him on that day facing David, this black man.
I know exactly where you're coming from. That's the case.
Yeah, he believes all of that. All right. And any other questions online? If there's no other questions online, I'm going to say to my online guests who have been with us, and I hope that this teaching was edifying to your spirit. I hope that you will be continuing to buy. Please do subscribe. Help us to reach 10,000 new subscribers within the next month or so. We are very thankful to you for allowing us to be part of your Sabbath worship. And please do share and repost this teaching to others that they can hear it too and gain some understanding. So on behalf of myself and those of the the new Millennium City Church, I want to say shalom and see you soon.
Shalom.
Shalom.